What's going on, crew? How's it going? And welcome back to another YouTube video. Today again I'm joined by someone you have seen on this channel before, Tobias. He's an awesome dude and I will put all of his stuff in the description below. And in this video me and him came together again to do 6 tips on what not to do when starting your aquarium. So a little bit opposite to what we done last time, so let's get on with the video. First tip on what not to do when you're starting your aquariums is all about aquamating. Now, if you are into the fish hobby, you guys definitely at home will know everything about aquamating and what to do and what not to do already. But for people who are unsure or don't really know, or just about starting the hobby and just about to give it a go or whatever, this is going to be for you, this tip. So aquamating, how can I word it? So imagine this. Imagine running a nice hot bath, it's boiling hot, and then you know when you dip your toe in, or you put a finger in, or you go to jump in it and it's boiling hot, and you just jump out of there and say, you know what, that's hot, I'm not going back in there. That's exactly what it's like if you do not aquamate your fish. The fish tank up the road, wherever you get your fish from, it could be in different temperature water. It most likely will be, because fish are used to different temperatures. So if you buy a tropical fish from your local pet store up the road, you could be getting it, think it's tropical, it's going in a tropical tank, it'll be fine to put straight in. But that is not the case at all. It is so important to float the bag on top of the water to make sure the temperatures are even when putting the fish, because you don't want to put your fish into shock, because that is what does happen. And as soon as your fish enters shock, it could get diseases, it could be unwell, or it could potentially, worst case scenario, it could sadly die. So make sure you aquamate beforehand. What I tend to do when I aquamate is I normally grab a trusty bucket and I put all the water from the bag inside of here once it's done temperature aquamating. The fish goes in here as well. I then get a bit of air tubing, which if you have an air stone or an air pump at home in one of your fish tanks, or your friend does, ask for the tubing because it's super helpful. And you just hold the tubing in there and it drips out small amounts of water to slowly get the fish used to your water in your tank. And then after that you can put the fish straight in. But remember, aquamating is so important when getting a new fish. So don't just throw your fish straight in to the tank thinking it's fine. Always aquamate. So guys, number 2 on what not to do when you get a new aquarium is only add a certain amount of fish at the beginning. You might want loads of fish in your fish tank, no matter how big or small the tank is. But it's always important to make sure maximum at a time you only add about 3 fish. Because what will happen is if you add too many, the right stuff in the tank, like the ammonia, the nitrate, the nitrites, you will most likely get a massive ammonia hit due to the amount of waste that these fish produce, and your tank just isn't used to it. So by more fish you add, the more likely that's going to happen. So always keep to maximum of 3 fish when adding into a brand new tank, so that does not happen. And then wait a good, at least about a month I would say, or a good 3 weeks before you then add more fish. So that is tip number 2. So guys, finally tip number 3 for you guys at home about do not, or things not to do in your aquarium first time if you're brand new setting up a tank, is to not cross-contaminate your equipment if you have multiple tanks. So as you can see behind me, I have quite a few tanks. I have 5 tanks in total, and I had a massive issue at the beginning with cross-contamination. So my large 220 litre tank there got worms in the tank, and I was unsure. I didn't really see them at the beginning, and I was using the same net throughout the different tanks. And what happened was the worms from that tank got transferred into the 64 litre behind me there where my platies are. Thankfully everything's good now, everything's fine. But yes, so that is one of the main things I would say when starting a new aquarium, definitely, is try not to cross-contaminate any equipment. If you see any signs of disease, any signs of parasite, worms, anything like that, white spot disease, anything, try not to cross-contaminate, because it's a bloody pain when it does happen, I tell you that now. So yeah, they are my 3 tips for you guys about what not to do when starting your aquarium. So guys, now let me pass you over to Tobias to tell you the other 3 tips that he has for you guys at home with your aquarium.
Alright guys, so my first aquarium do not is do not keep goldfish in small tanks or aquariums. This tank behind me is a 20-gallon long, and I have 1 fan-tailed goldfish in there. I used to have him in a much smaller tank, and that was only supposed to be temporary before I moved him into my pool pond. But as a lot of you might know, I feel like this fish might have been sick, so that's why I got this bigger tank for him, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to move him into the pool pond anytime soon. A lot of people don't know that goldfish can live from 10 to 15 years old, and in most people's tanks at home, I believe they only live to maybe like around 5 years, and those fish just aren't living out their entire lifespan. So I think a 20-gallon long is okay for one goldfish with adequate filtration. However, I wouldn't go any smaller than that. I think 20 gallons is probably the very minimum. And for comet goldfish, I would not recommend leaving goldfish in a tank this size. For comet goldfish, you want at least 30 gallons per fish. And the reason that you want such big tanks for goldfish is that comet goldfish, like long-bodied goldfish, can grow from 12 to 14 inches. So realistically, you probably do want a pond for goldfish, but if you're keeping them in a tank, you know, at least 30 gallons per fish. And as they grow, you might want to see what you want to do. Another reason that goldfish need larger tanks is because they produce a lot more ammonia than tropical fish, and having more water helps dilute that ammonia, and having adequate filtration will take care of that as well. My second aquarium do not is don't let the algae get as bad as it is in my tank. But no, that's not really what it is. My second aquarium do not is do not add new fish to your existing aquarium without quarantining those fish. If you don't know what quarantining means, it means having another tank with an established filter, and this could be an actual tank like this, or it could be just a plastic storage bin, whatever you want to use as long as it has an established filter. And you want to keep your new fish in that quarantine tank for at least 4 weeks so that you could be sure that they don't carry any parasites or diseases which might be introduced to your fish that you already have in your aquarium. I think a lot of people might disagree with me on how to quarantine fish. What a lot of people like to do with quarantine tanks is they like to treat those tanks with 3 different types of medications to treat possible diseases or parasites. I personally have never done that, and the reason that I haven't done that is treating with medications could stress out fish, especially if you're treating them with 3 different kinds. So in my opinion, if you do want to treat your quarantine tank with medications, I would wait maybe 2 weeks before doing so, just because the fish are already going through stress of them being moved into a new tank. And then if they are being hit with extra stress from medications, I feel like that might be a little too much for a lot of fish to handle. So what I've done in the past is I've just put fish in a quarantine tank and just monitored them, watched out for any strange behavior or any breakouts of disease. And if I feel like the fish are safe enough after that 4-week mark, then I'll go ahead and add them to my pond. I've actually never added fish to this tank or my other tank. So that's how I've quarantined fish. And my third aquarium do not is a little redundant, but it is do not add plants to your aquarium without quarantining them first as well. Now, certain types of plants you can add to your aquarium right away, and those are plants that have been grown from like a cultured tissue sample. But a lot of the times, if you are in a pet store and you see plants in a display tank at the pet store and there's fish in there, you definitely want to quarantine those. And once again, you know, my opinion on this might differ from other people's opinions as well. What a lot of people like to do is they like to dip plants in like a chemical solution to get rid of any parasites or anything like that. But I think that could also stress out your plants and it could possibly kill them. What you can do with plants if you don't want to do that is what I do, and I've quarantined plants in their own tank for 4 weeks. And yeah, it might take much longer to do this, but I feel like it's the more natural way. And the reason that you want to quarantine them for at least 28 days or 1 month is because any parasites living on the plants will die off in a period of 4 weeks because they don't have a host to latch onto. So in other words, the parasites that might be living on those plants only have a 4-week lifespan. So that's how you'll know that the plants will be safe after 4 weeks.
So guys, thank you so much for watching this video if you did reach it to the end. If not, thank you so much for watching some of it. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed to me so far. It means so much and helps me loads. Please give it a thumbs up if you do enjoy the video, and thank you to Tobias again for collaborating with me. It's been super awesome. So I will see you guys in the next video next week. See you later. Bye.